Let us take a trip down memory lane and ask where and how did your journey begin in Bollywood?
Oh well, that's a long one, but I'm going to try and keep it as concise. So I was always very interested in literature as a child. It's history and literature. Wherever there was storytelling, those were subjects that I was reading as a child, and I was really fond of. And we had Shakespeare in school, and we used to do a lot of drama and theater in school. The whole sense of doing Shakespearean plays really kind of attracted me to the arts even furthermore. I feel so that was one of my earliest influences that I remember. I think my foundation was being laid for a certain kind of storytelling where I liked the whole sense of Shakespearean drama, so to speak. And post that, once I was out of boarding school, I just helped myself and got myself a job in Shah Rukh Khan's company while they were making a film there as an assistant director. And I didn't know anybody there. It's just that the director that time really liked my knowledge on Shakespeare, in fact, because I walked into the office and he said, oh, I was just 17 and a half, barely 18. I was in first year of college or senior school, if you may.
Yes.
And he said, what are you doing here? And I said, I just happened to meet the director. As I stepped into the office, he was walking out of his cabin. And he says, who are you? What do you want? And I'm like, I want to work. And I know this film is being made. I would like to work as an assistant director. And he's like, well, you're too young. You don't know anything. And I said, no, I know a little bit about Shakespeare. And that kind of, and he said, oh, really? What do you know about Shakespeare? And I kind of shared with him whatever I knew back then. And I kind of got an in, so to speak. And I did two films as an assistant director, post which I decided to entirely focus on writing. And I have invested a lot of my years over a period of my life invested in writing or teaching myself the craft of writing. See, because as much as the creative sphere of content creation of filmmaking, as much as this is art and imagination, it is also a craft.
It's
And the craft has certain principles, certain tools, a whole bundle of knowledge out there to take from, so that one can imply that in one's writing. And so a lot of my years and my early years in life were invested in teaching myself the craft of writing. uh, and post which, I got an early break. I did some short films with Ajay Devgan. I did one short film. I directed music videos, a whole bunch of them. I did my first feature, then Allah Ke Bande. Post Allah Ke Bande, post my first feature, I did a lot of ad films. In fact, I started creating my own web series in 2016 and 2017 when Netflix and Amazon were not even in India. I had my first original web series released on the same platform that my film is released today on Disney Hotstar. I mean, that time it was just Hotstar. Today it's Disney Hotstar. But Hotstar's first original web series was a series that I did called Shockers in 2016 with actors like Kalki Kochan, Dia Mirza, Amit Saad, Pratik Babbar, a whole bunch of them. And it was for all of them, it was their first web series also. So 2016 and 17 have been doing these web series. 2018 did another series which is on a platform called MX Player. Post which did a film called 377 Abnormal, which is the historic journey of some of the real life petitioners from the LGBTQ community in India who have petitioned the high courts and Supreme Court over 17 long years to decriminalize homosexuality in India and abolish a law called the IPC Section 377. This law was abolished in 2018, later 2018, and I made the film in early 2017. The law was abolished. 2018 September 6, 2018, and 2019 by March, I had already got this film out. In fact, today as we speak, I have just been informed that my film 377 Abnormal has been nominated at the Screenwriters Award for the most gender sensitive script, so to speak. I just got
Wow.
the news sometime back.
Wow. Congratulations indeed.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, an exciting journey indeed that you've had. But your last feature film was done 10 years ago, like you said, Allah Ke Bande. Why the long
Yeah.
gap?
Well, because I feel like, I'm not somebody in my head. It's not like I am alive as a content creator or as a director or as a writer only if I'm doing films. Like
Yes.
I said, I have done 5 web series in the last 4 years. That's a lot of work,
Of
and
course.
that's a lot of content creation. And so I don't really feel like you only have to do cinema today. There are so many ways that an artist can express themselves, not just cinematically. You can do it through web series, you can do it on YouTube, you can do it in so many different ways. We all yearn, I think, for a creative sense of expression. Even you doing this interview is your creative expression.
Yes.
So we all yearn for that, and whatever channel one gets, I don't want to feel, oh, I'm only a film director, I'm only a web series director, I'm only an ad filmmaker. I want to be able to express content the way I want to, and within the varied formats available to me as a filmmaker to express myself. Sometimes I would want to tell one story beyond 2 hours. I would want to tell it as a 6 hour tale or a 10 hour tale. I'll then want to make a web series out of it. But I don't think my passion or my approach to my work is going to change whether I'm directing a film or whether I'm directing a web series. Content creation and the approach to work is going to remain the same.
I admire you for that because at the end of the day, you're not boxing yourself and you're not saying I'm just a feature filmmaker. You creative maker and you do obviously everything from web series to films, which is exciting indeed.
Yeah, Riaz, because I have been a hustler and have had to hustle my way through uh, however I can express myself as an artist.
Certainly.
You don't always have choices in front of you. You sometimes need to just create your own opportunities.
Certainly. Now, thankfully, we won't have to wait too long before we see a sequel to Khuda Haafiz. Obviously, that's been announced just after the film did very well. Would you like to let us know a little more about what the film is going to be about, or are you still at a stage where you're working on the script?
I'm still at a very early stage. I'm still, I'm dreading the process of beginning to write again, because I feel like it doesn't matter how well your last film has done. As an artist, you are back to square one. It's an empty page with the first word still not written on it. And,
Oh,
and so you're back to ground zero, and you need to get back to basics, and you need to go back to the same level of hunger that you created the earlier work with, or probably more. No, I'm far from I'm still kind of just breathing the thoughts of the story. I've still not started writing it. Yeah, but soon I'm going to get into a slightly isolated space, or process rather, to begin finding my structure. And I actually don't want to call it a sequel. That's why we specifically called it Chapter 2. Because Khuda Hafiz, the Chapter 2 is not really a sequel. It's really about wanting to know what happens to the story of this couple.
yes.
Where does it go? Does love triumph after all? How will their relationship pan out? So it's many things and more. And so I don't want to call it a sequel and kind of uh, you know corrupt it, so to speak, in my head. I just want to be able to find an honest expression of this story further, between these characters.
Amazing. I'm sure it's going to be really, really interesting. Now, while I was doing some research on this interview, I picked up that Khuda Haafiz was actually completed during the lockdown. What was the experience like?
So we finished shooting before the lockdown.
Yes.
Uh, but and the first 2 months of the lockdown, we didn't do anything with the film. We were just waiting to know, because there was no movement allowed anywhere in the city or any of that. So I had to do the entire post of the film, the entire editing, the background music, the largest songs in the film, uh, the VFX, the color grading, everything had to happen in the lockdown. And part of it happened on a Zoom call like we are on right now. But most of it happened in the studios, one-on-one, with uh, the different artists. Like my background music person, it was just him and just me, and we were making sure nobody else was entering the studio, and we had to go at it because our minds are not conditioned to make. You can't make cinema sitting at home. That's not going to
Of
be
course not.
possible, and our minds are not as yet conditioned to that process. It's new for everybody around the world to be sitting at home and operating from that. And you can do many things from home, but you definitely can't finish your film sitting at home. So my editor and me made an entire stopgap arrangement in my office and created a little setup in my office and quietly sat and edited there, at a certain distance from each other. Then when that process got over, I went into the background music and scoring the music with my background music person, and shuffling for my color grading, and shuffling to these studios completely, covered with gloves, with a helmet, with even covers for my legs, with masks, of course. Took all the precautions because I have to. Live with my family, my mother, so I need to be cautious. But I did need to expose myself, and in fact, I didn't hug my mother or kiss her for a whole 2 months till I was finishing this entire post-production process. I had to just create that distance even within my house.
Wow. Now, looking back at all the effort that has gone into making this film, are you actually a bit despondent about the fact that it didn't get to have a theatrical release?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Because Vidyut and me simply asked ourselves a simple question,
Mhm.
that if we were making this film for a digital OTT platform, would we make it any less passionately or with any less zeal? And the answer was no. We would still make it with the same passion. We would still make it with the same zeal. And finally, you are still catering to an audience only. And we want an audience to like a film. That's what really matters. So no, not at all. And in fact, with everything that's going on in the world, Riaz, it's very selfish to think like that. Oh, my film is not getting an OTT release. Oh, people are not getting food on their table. People are losing jobs. People are having to migrate. People are having to change their entire lifestyles. People can't visit their own sick relatives. People can't bury their own dead. These are extremely challenging times for the entire human race. And for me to sit and think, oh, my film didn't get a theater release, it's coming just on the OTT. That's a very small way of thinking. I'm just very thankful to God and kind that my family and me are healthy, and that everybody who's been associated with the film is doing fine and everybody is happy. And we've walked out with it with a bit of respect, which is important. Uh, you know, with earning a little bit of money, if you can also earn a little bit of respect, it's a nice thing to happen.
That's very big of you, and a nice perspective, I'd say. Now, Vidyut Jammwal is no out and out action hero, but the way you've
Yeah.
portrayed him in this film, of a man in search of the love of his life, amazing. His character was so well developed. I never thought he could play this part. What made you believe in him?
Because Vidyut is a very good martial artist, and this is one of the initial reasons, or other thing in my head that I was gauging, because he's such a astute martial artist, one of the best in the world. I knew that Vidyut definitely will have a lot of sense of concentration, and he would have very long hours of concentration, which is a very important tool for an actor to have. So I began there, and then we both jammed, and all credit to Vidyut to go against the grain, and surrender to the process of this character, and kind of then make it his own. All credit to him to be brave enough to shred that image, or that persona that he has worked so hard to build over the years. So as much credit it is to me, it's equal credit to the actor, to Vidyut also, because I feel like especially an actor and director's relationship is a lot of collaboration. And if you're lucky enough to come into a space which is egoless, uh, then that collaboration really flourishes. And I think that it was just nice that we both were able to come to that space where we were just egoless with each other, and we could communicate freely, and we could chat freely, and we could find the sur together. And then many times, there have been a lot of times that sometimes it's also important to take off the training wheels. So there have been many times during the filming where, because I knew that Vidyut and me had discussed enough and read enough of those things, sometimes I just used to leave him by himself, and see what was coming out and playing out. And it was interesting because Vidyut is surprised everybody, and it's great. I'm so happy that everybody has really loved his performance, and his character, and this is why I'm looking forward to being back for the both of us on set again, because as two collaborating artists, we are at a sur where we can create in an egoless manner, which is a rarity in the industry. So it's good if that can happen. And of course, those are the kind of relationships that truly flourish. You will see a Bansali with a Ranveer. You will see a Ayan Mukherjee with a Ranbir. You will see a Mani Ratnam with an Abhishek. So many of these director-actor collaborations are the ones where it's happened well both for the actor and the director, because that jugalbandi has worked. You can't do things in a limbo in life, and you definitely can't mix films in a limbo.
Certainly. Wow. Very insightful, and an absolutely different way of thinking as well, which is important because obviously, as you said, in this industry, there can be a lot of egos, and those do clash, and that kills the creative process. What inspires you as a filmmaker? And in other words, what stories are you passionate about telling?
I'm just passionate, Riaz, about being as fiercely an original storyteller. That's always my search. That's always what I'm seeking within, as an artist. And I want to write fiercely original stuff. I want to make because if I feel as a filmmaker, as a writer, if I don't even have my own point of view, then I have nothing. So I want to have my own unique point of view, and my search as an artist is only to keep finding my own unique point of view, to be as less influenced by anything, but at the same time to learn from everything around me, and be as original as possible, in the material that I'm writing, in the way that I am shooting, both technically as an artist and creatively as an artist. I don't in fact, if somebody tells me that, oh, in another film I saw something similar, that's when my antennas will get up, and I'll go back to my script and I'll say, oh, okay, now I have to find a new way of doing this because this feels similar to somebody about something. So I want to be as fiercely original as possible. And that's why I try and look at real life stories that give me a trigger point and trigger my imagination. And I say, oh, wow, this is the story I would love to be invested in over the next year and a half of my life. This is a story worth telling. And that's where Khuda Haafiz comes from. That's where my previous film before Khuda Haafiz, 377 Abnormal, comes from. That's where my first film, Allah Ke Bande, came from. They all came from real life stories, all came from newspaper articles.
Amazing indeed. Well, I'd just like to take this opportunity to say thank you to talking. Thank you for the time, and I'd like to wish you all the best for your future films. From all of us here at Sunny Talkies in South Africa, a message for your fans in South Africa: are you going to be coming for a shoot anytime soon once everything opens up?
Well, I've always heard fascinating things about South Africa, and it's definitely on my bucket list. I definitely want to visit South Africa. I've visited Africa otherwise, like I've been to Kenya and the Masai Mara and the Ngorongoro crater and all those places as a kid. So Africa definitely fascinates me. Of course, many people don't know, but Morocco is also in Africa. So I've been up in Morocco, right up in the north. So I think now I need to do my next trip to South Africa. And it's great. I mean, South Africa is one of those flourishing, developing cultures, nations, which is again a very interesting mix, a very good cosmopolitan mix. So I think South Africa will also, I'm sure is creating good content, and I'm sure that many artists, who'll become more and more world famous, will flourish from a place like South Africa because of all the cross cultures that collide in your environment, which is always great for artists, which is always great for content creation, so to speak. So all the best to Sunny Talkies, to everybody in South Africa. I hope we all come out of the COVID safe and sound as a human race, and we can meet again and hug again and hold again and, be back in the theaters, most importantly.
Certainly.